Hey guys, welcome to your fifth iOS application tutorial. In this tutorial I will be making a simple calculator. So let's do single view application and I'll name it simple calculator. Create a save and let's head over to main storyboard. First thing we need to do is set up our interface. We're going to have a little title right here. There we go. Let's make it say simple calculator. And we'll make it red. Yeah. And centered. Next, what we need is a label for our output. Basically, we're going to be solving really simple equations and we want to output the answers here. So we will put it, we'll center it, and let's create a background of light gray and delete label. And we want the background just so we could see exactly how large the label is. And next we're going to need a bunch of buttons. And we'll make their backgrounds light gray as well, just so we could see their boundaries. So we'll do paste. Alright, so I just skipped ahead to me labeling all of my buttons. I think this one's a little small actually. Let's see, 46, 33. Yeah, this one's 30. So let's change that to 33. Alright, so now my buttons are generally the same size. It's close enough. So what I want to do is I want to tag all of these numbers, 0 through 9. And what I mean by tag is I want to go down to tag here and allocate it the number that is. So tag 0 for number 0, and then tag 1 for 1, and so on. And the reason I'm doing this is because later on in our methods we're going to want to get the tag value so we could figure out which button was pressed, because this will save us time and it'll save us from having to code a lot more. Alright, 8 and 9. Next thing we need to do is we need to create some outlets and connections. So let's go over to our assistance editor and recent files H. Before we create the connections, we'll need some class variables. First we need is bool. We need to say operator pressed. Basically we're gonna have it, this is gonna be a simple calculator. Whoa, what's with the kind of error here? There we go. This is gonna be a simple calculator with only a left side, an operator, and a right side, just a binary calculator, because it would get really complex and it would be an extremely long tutorial if I didn't make it that way. And so we're going to have a char for op, and I can't do operator because it's a keyword, so maybe I could do operand. Yeah, but I don't think that's right. Let's just do op. We'll comment it. And basically what's going to happen is it's going to be output to the label, so we want to have the character saved. And next we will need NS strings for first entry and second entry. I believe that's it, but if I forgot something I'll just go back and add it. So now it's time to add all of our methods. Well, let's add our label first. We'll say label output. Next, clear. So we'll say clear pressed, but it's an action, so we gotta change that. And then we need one for add pressed. We need one for minus pressed. And we need one for equals pressed. Now this is where the tags are going to come into play. I'm going to create a method. It's going to be IB action number pressed. It's going to take UI button. And we put an asterisk there because it's an object. So, oh, there we go. Semicolon. And now what we're going to do is we're going to take 7, 8, all these numbers. We're going to connect it to button pressed. And since they have tags, we'll now be able to access that tag value in our method. So since we created this one ourselves, we're going to have to copy and paste it. Let's go head over to our M, and we'll paste it at the bottom. First thing we're going to do is say int tag equals sender dot tag. Yeah, there we go. Sorry for the skip in time. I had a few things I had to do first. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to do our method which outputs to the label. And this is where the tag saves us in redundancy, because we'd have to write this code every single time for each number if we didn't have this numbers pressed and tag method. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to say if operand or operator pressed equals false. And this if statement is just here because if the operator pressed value is false, it means we're on the first entry. We haven't pressed the operator and moved on to the second entry. So this is for the first entry. And so since we want to allocate our tag number to the first entry, we're going to do that right here. But if it is null, we can't just append it to the string. It won't work. So if first entry equals null, we have to do something a little different. What we have to do is we say first entry equals ns string with format at quotation %i end quotation, and then we put in tag. And basically that'll just set first entry to equal whatever the tag is. And next we'll do label output.text equals first entry. So now our label is equal to first entry. And if the first entry isn't null, we're going to do basically the exact same thing. So I'll copy and paste this with a minor change. The only change is we're going to have a %at in front, and then in front of tag we'll have first entry. And that's because now that first entry isn't a null value, we want to make the string, we want to append or concatenate tag on top of first entry. We don't want to replace it. So what we do is we put first entry at the start and then tag right after. And that's how a calculator works too. Like you say you press the number 0 and then you press 1, it's going to look like that. And then you press 5, 4, 5, 6. It'll append it to the end. It won't replace it. So that's why we do that. And now we just output again. First entry. Awesome. Now all we need to do is the exact same thing for second entry. We'll say second entry equals, we could actually just copy and paste this part. Save some time. Alright. Label output.text equals second entry. Cool. Now we do our else. And well, let's work on the spacing a little bit. Alright, we'll do our else, which is, I'll copy this. Second entry equals, and then label output.text equals second entry. Alright, so let's give this a test run. Basically, we're just going to see if when we click the numbers, if our simulator will work. Alright, so we've got our window, we click numbers, and you see it appends the string. So it works exactly how we want it to, but it's only showing the first entry because we haven't done anything with our operators or clear or equals. Alright, so now that we have our output working well, the next thing we want to do is get the methods for all of our operators on the right. So for clear, basically what we want to happen is we want it to make the label empty. So we're going to say label output dot text equals null. And we want to change our first entry to equal null. Oops. And we want second entry to equal null as well. And I don't know if I mentioned I added these up here at some point. It might have not been caught on the video. Basically, in view_did_load, I just set these to their primary values. So every time you start the app, it's basically refreshing. And so we also need this operator pressed equals false here, because every time we press clear, we're resetting the entire equation. And for equals pressed, we just want to decide whether to add or subtract. So I'll make a bool for add just because. I'll change this char to bool add. And basically if add's pressed, add equals true, or else add equals false. And then in equals pressed, I will say if add equals false, I want to subtract it. So int output num equals first entry int value, there we go, minus second entry int value. And then I will say label output equals ns string with format %i output num. Oops, label output dot text is what I meant. There we go. And now I'm going to copy this, place it here, change this to a plus, and that should do it for equals pressed. Oh, except now that that's done, we want to change operator pressed to false again. Because now that equals been pressed, we're back to our original equation. So we want first entry to equal false again, or equal null. We want second entry to equal null. And we'll keep label output, because if we set that to null, it wouldn't even output. And when add is pressed and minus is pressed, that's all we want it to do. Alright, so finally we have our window. Stupid Springboard kept having an error. Say 89 plus 63 equals, whoops, 63 plus, oh, I missed the most important part. I needed to change add press and minus press, need operator pressed. Because without this, we don't ever go on to the second entry. Alright guys, that was my fault, and I apologize. Let's try this again. Alright, finally our window came up. Say 89 plus 63 equals, whoops, I must have mistyped, 78 plus 2. 80. There we go. See, our calculator is working good. I think the buttons might be too close in proximity. Yeah. There we go. See, 9 and 6 seem to be having a problem. Once I move them farther apart, I'm sure it's fine. 75 plus 3, 78. It works great. Then we clear it. 1 plus 0 equals 1. So our calculator works like it should. Alright, so I noticed the problem where it doesn't exactly output the right answer, and that was just my fault with this little copy and paste I did where it's exactly the same. I made everything second entry except for this, and that basically changed the output pretty bad. So let's just run this again and it should work perfectly now.